This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.
Good morning and welcome to a beautiful golden sunrise at Djuma in the Sabi sands. It's a very crisp and cool morning this morning, and we are certainly going to have a stunning day here today. My name is Tessa. I'm going to be your guide on safari here this morning. Behind the camera we have Morgan, and we are actually going to be going on a bumble today, hoping to find you some elephants and some leopards. So we've got some great plans for the day today. Myself and Tristan are both going to be looking for any sign of the spotted cats and elephants. Amy's also actually going to be looking for some wild dogs this morning. And we're really hoping to hear from you. So thank you for joining us. If you have any questions or comments, please get hold of us on Twitter at #WildEarth, at FC if you're on YouTube. Or if you're under the age of 18, you can pop us an email at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. You can also register on the WildEarth website. You can head over to the live safari page and submit your questions there. We can't wait to hear from you. And I'm really hoping that with this beautiful day today and the blue sky, that we're going to have some incredible things happen. At the moment, it is only about 10-11 degrees Celsius, so it is quite a crisp morning, but we are actually due to get quite hot today, and it doesn't look like there's going to be any rain at all. But just have a look at the sunrise for a little bit as the colors change, and then I can head off to look for my ribs. A lot of birds calling this morning, saying good morning to everyone. Michelle, it is an absolutely beautiful scene. There's nothing that quite compares to a sunrise or a sunset in the bush. Look at those colors. Absolutely incredible. It's definitely one of the best times to be out just as the golden light is filtering through, and still early and cool enough that hopefully some of the spotted cats are still moving for myself and Tristan. Maybe even still some wild dogs for Amy. Safari Kitty, I agree. South Africa never disappoints for a stunning sunrise. Makes for incredible photography as well. Beautiful light coming in. The dawn chorus is incredible this morning. I can hear woodpeckers, I can hear francolins. I even heard a kingfisher just now, up very early. And in the distance, you can hear an elephant breaking a tree. Absolutely beautiful. I think we're in for a really exciting day today. But why don't we have a look at what our weather is doing in our locations this morning.
From one beautiful sunrise to another. It is a very chilly morning this morning here at andBeyond in Ngala, but nonetheless it is still wonderful to be out and about in the bush this morning. A very good morning to you. My name is Amy, and behind the camera this morning, as always, we have Kat. Just every morning is so special when we're able to look at the sunrise and see it come up in the bush. Brand new day. Don't know what's in store for us today, but very excited to get out there and follow up on possibly some signs of wild dog this morning. We're going to drive down into the southern part of the reserve and just have a scratch around and see if there's any signs of them crossing back over into the reserve, or possibly just any sort of movements of them this morning. But we're also going to see what we find on the way. I'm hoping to see some zebra today. We didn't manage to find any yesterday. But let's just take in the sunrise as it gets higher and higher in the sky. Or there's someone else this morning that also wants to say good morning to you. So off you go.
We do want to say good morning. Interesting. I'll show you guys why that's interesting in 2 seconds, but let me say hello first. My name is Tristan. On camera I've got Paul. Nice to be the only male to feature in this morning's game drive. I've got Tessa and Amy, so lots of ladies are around, which is a good thing. It's always good when we've got the ladies on drive. Right, so why it's interesting is, let me grab this radio so I can show you at the end of the radio, is we've got, I don't know if you're going to be able to get this one here, Paul, but hopefully you can. So there you've got a male leopard, there you've got a hyena that's following the male leopard, and then here you've got tracks for Kara going over. Now, Kara's the one leopard out here with pretty much certainty I can tell you that it's her, because her foot size is absolutely tiny. She has a very, very, very small foot in relation to all the other females that we have here. And this area that we're in now is a very kind of prominent place for Kara to move around. But the other leopard track that's coming up, that's being followed by the hyenas, which is the big male leopard track, that track is probably the biggest track we have on Djuma, and I'm pretty sure that this is Mulawati again. He's an individual that has huge feet. It's one of the bigger leopard tracks, and a lot of people might even call this a lioness if they're inexperienced. And I want to show you just how big his foot is compared to Kara's. I just want to try and find Kara's little track here. That's the front foot, so that we can do it quickly. Just give me 2 seconds. Sorry, Paul, I know I've just ducked behind the tire. But alright, so I've got Kara's foot. That if we place it inside like this. Oh, I've bent the grass a little bit. Alright. So if you have a look here, his foot ends there, and well, starts there and ends over here. And you can see how much shorter that is. It's almost an entire toe length longer than her foot. The width, not that dissimilar. His is widest there and there. So you can see it's probably, I don't know, what is that? Maybe 3 centimeters wider and at least a toe length longer. So quite a lot bigger than what she is. Now she's crossed on this game path, which is pretty typical for her, going straight north towards Baobab Dam and Buffels Hook. His track carries on straight along the road here, heading towards sort of Sandy Patch. I'm pretty sure he might cross into Arathusa's side or Simambili, but we'll follow it and see where it goes. I know a lot of the time people think I'm crazy because I follow his track and it's a futile exercise, and so far every single time has been futile. We get to the point where it's super fresh and I feel like he's right there, but we just don't see him. But if we don't do it and we don't try, then you're never going to get anywhere with him. It's just going to always be a constant struggle. So in my mind, I'm like, well, why not just try track him? You never know what the circumstances can be. It can be on a kill, he can be with a female mating, and maybe one of those is enough to get him to just sit for a little bit and we can actually view him. So that's why we're tracking him. And failing that, then we'll try and track Kara, but let's see where his track goes first.
Welcome back. So I'm actually heading down towards Twin Dams, and while Tristan has some leopard tracks, I actually have tracks of a male lion, possibly dark mane, down this road. Taking it nice and slow. Just watching to see if there might be anything that pops up. Looks like this line keeps cutting off and then coming back on, which is quite unusual. If you knew where you wanted to go, you would have gone straight. Definitely excited to see what we find today. I really hope we manage to get the dams. All right, welcome back to Djuma in the Sabi Sands. I'm actually sitting and listening at the moment. So there were tracks of a male lion coming south from Vuyatela Dam towards Twin Dams on the southern section of Djuma. And I'm wondering if it's not dark mane, because he was around Vuyatela Dam last night. So I just want to have a little listening for bird alarm calls, anything that might indicate that he might still be around. Heather, I had never met any of the leopards until I got here, and I've already seen 5. I know the other day Tristan was mentioning all the different leopards. There were about 30 names that he mentioned, so I've got 25 to go. And so far I've seen pretty much all of the leopards that have been broadcast in the last few days. I've been incredibly lucky, but I really can't wait to try and find the other 25 while I'm here, that's for sure. It's always very interesting to watch leopard dynamics and how they differ. And so coming from Ngala to somewhere like the Sabi Sands, there's obviously a lot more density of leopards here as opposed to a higher density of lions there. So it's just interesting to watch how it changes. But I don't think I've ever really seen an unfortunate looking leopard. I think they've all been just absolutely beautiful to me, so I'm most excited to find that. So that's my mission this morning. The dawn chorus is incredible this morning. It's the first morning where it hasn't been slightly windy. It's very cold, but it's not windy and it's a clear sky. First morning in a while, so I think the birds are taking advantage of that. Alright, so I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to keep going down towards Twin Dam, see if maybe Dark Mane has popped up there. Maybe I'll also find some leopard tracks. But why don't you have a look at the eco training prize that you can win as an explorer?
If you are a WildEarth explorer, then we are excited to announce that there is another unique prize for you to win. Sign up to be an explorer before the 16th of October 2021, and you and a friend could be heading off to an eco training ranger experience. This 2-night opportunity offers a living and learning adventure where you will combine seeing incredible nature with gaining knowledge on how animals live in the wild. You will approach dangerous game on foot, learn how to track, do some 4x4 driving, and have an exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team behind the scenes on the live show. After each action-packed day, you will relax around the campfire and listen to the nighttime choir of animal sounds before you drift off to sleep. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
We are heading down south this morning. I must say, even though it's chilly, it is beautiful to be out. Pat's just going to clean the lens so that you can see. No signs yet of these wild dogs, but we are keeping our eyes open. It is still nice and cool, good chance that these animals are moving around. It is the time of day that wild dogs love to be active and be moving. Nice and cool where they can run and chase their prey without being worried about the heat of the day affecting them. It's also likely that at this time of year, just after they've been breeding, that we're able to see them even with maybe some puppies. So Wesley, this year, as far as we know, we didn't have any wild dogs that denned, but it's difficult to say that wild dogs live in an area. They cover such a huge area of land, they're home ranges as we call them, that Ngala may form part of APAC's home range, but you can't say that they live there because they can move so easily from one reserve to another or through the Kruger National Park or anything like that. But we do have a pack that has been seen, and this is one of the ones that we're trying to see if we can find any signs of this morning. So no, I wouldn't say we have any dogs that live on Ngala. However, we definitely have some that pass through throughout the year. I think what I might do from here is actually go check one of the water holes that are coming up a little bit further south. See if there's any signs of any animals that have come down to drink this morning.
As WildEarth has shown, a guide is critical to your enjoyment when on safari. Safari Guide of the Year is an annual event which creates awareness for these men and women who dedicate their lives to tourism and wildlife. WildEarth fully supports this initiative that gives more credit to a profession that drives our economy and flies South African flags higher than most. In the lead up to our live award ceremony, where the Safari Guide of the Year 2021 will be crowned, we are inviting all our viewers to join us for a special fireside chat. Open to everyone, this unique event invites some of the top guides in the country to Djuma on the 26th of September, straight after the Sunset Safari.
Being nominated to the top 5 and finally being here, for me, it's an achievement. Tracks, I believe I did quite well, and the walk.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward.
The storytelling as well. So yeah, I think that's where I see my strongest point.
And then, that was the opportunity of the scraping.
I say the bedding and the call, definitely, for me, it was quite a big challenge. Guiding is not all about the award that we have had, but sharing the experience and continue to do what we have passion and love.
Something very, very interesting. I didn't plan this, but this is a scene, rarely seen. This is what we call a journey of giraffe. So beautiful.
Tune into WildEarth every single day. It's in your nature.
Welcome back. So I'm actually checking the southern boundary at the moment, and I haven't seen any tracks crossing out yet. So that means either somewhere in the block that male lion changed direction, or he settled down. He hasn't come out of the southern part where the tracks were. So I'm just taking a really nice slow drive towards the east. I'm actually wanting to go towards Leopard Dam. And just see what we find along the way. Max, it is amazing how dominant Darkmane is. You know, considering his injury, we were actually talking about his injury a little bit yesterday, and he's done a lot, but these animals are very, very resilient. So, I mean, if you look at the Birmingham young male at Ngala, you know, terrible injury, and yet still manages to stick with the pride, manages to make a comeback, and now finally kind of moved off into a coalition. So these animals are so resilient, and you see the nice thing with Darkmane is he's so big. He's a massive lion with a beautiful big dark mane, so he kind of demands respect as is. So once you've kind of recovered from your injury, it becomes a lot easier to just carry on where you left off. And I guess with the support of a pride, and I mean still with the Avoca males too, you're much more likely to still be successful and survive. But it is amazing, you know, it's something that humans would really probably struggle to come right from, is any injury. And animals do it all the time, and half the time we don't even know it. I don't want to jinx it and say it feels a little bit warmer, but it feels a little bit warmer. Not driving into the breeze. One of the best things about the sandy roads is it makes it very, very easy to look for tracks and find them, especially early in the morning before anyone else has driven on those roads. They really do stand out quite well. Kerry, the S8 male, or the Mbali male, as he's called, actually comes from further north. So he comes from the Manyeleti area. So there's a road in the Kruger Park called the S8. That's where he comes from. So it's a little bit further north, actually closer to andBeyond and Ngala. That's where he comes from. We're not actually sure where he is at the moment, but hopefully somebody finds him within the next few days. I know there were reports of a male lion somewhere on Buffelshoek yesterday, which was definitely not Darkmane, because Darkmane was down here. So possibly he's back where all the drama happened. It was absolutely wonderful to meet him. He is quite an amazing specimen. Kitty loves Darkmane, very cool name. Is there any animal or insect that freaks me out? I think not anymore. When I was younger, I wasn't the biggest fan of spiders or scorpions. Now I actually quite enjoy it. And I studied insects at university, so that took that fear right out of the water. So no, at the moment I don't think I'm really freaked out by animals or insects. That's actually a very interesting question. I'll have to think about it and see if I can think of anything that I'm freaked out by. So at the moment there just seem to be some hyena tracks going in the same direction that I'm going, which is not unusual. A night of walking around looking for food, you're bound to cross a road at some point. thinking really hard about that now. Something walking across the road up ahead. Don't know what it is, but let's go find out. The main differences between andBeyond and Ngala and Djuma are actually kind of what you would kind of classify some of the smaller things. So andBeyond and Ngala on its own as a property is a lot bigger. It's around 15,000 hectares. Djuma is quite a lot smaller, and the area that we can traverse is about 6,000 to 7,000 hectares. So obviously there's a size difference. The other big difference, which I've noticed, which actually makes it a lot easier for us to find animals here sometimes, is that andBeyond and Ngala has fewer roads. So it's a massive property, but not as kind of tight of a road network. So here at Djuma, there's a lot of roads. There's a cute view of that one. There's a lot of roads, and so what happens is when you're tracking an animal, it makes it a lot easier to kind of narrow down where it's gone, because you know it has to cross roads out of that block at some point, and because the roads are closer together, you can find it sometimes quite a lot quicker with less walking. I suppose another big difference is, you know, the massive riverbed, the Timbavati riverbed at Ngala compared to just the smaller drainage lines here. And then there's a lot more hills and crests and dips and valleys here. I also particularly like this section because there are some rocky outcrops which you don't really get at andBeyond and Ngala. So there's a few smaller differences. In terms of the overall habitat, it's pretty much the same. We're really not far from Ngala where we are now. So it looks like it's a whole herd of kudu. That was what I saw crossing the road up ahead, was one kudu cow. And this is some of the rest of the herd. She is standing beautifully in the sun. And listening very carefully. Watch your ears. That light really highlights that beautiful touch of pink and red in her ears. She does look quite relaxed though, so I'm not worried that there might be a predator or something here at this point. But I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to let her carry on with her morning. I'm going to carry on towards Leopard Dam, and I'm going to send you to Amy, who is at a watering hole.
Well, we have arrived here at this watering hole, and doesn't look like there are any wild dogs around here, but there are a few birds, and it's just so beautiful, the reflection in the water, and just stopping and taking in this beautiful morning and the sounds of the bush. I heard there was a question about animals, insects that freak us out. Well, I asked Gerrit, and he said that the insect that freaks him out the most is a centipede. I would agree with that. Those things are freaky. If you've ever seen one, if you haven't, they are almost like a millipede, but far more vicious and frightening and wriggly and hairy and spiny. I would say for myself, animal that freaks me out is, I don't know, a sun spider or a red Roman. I can't understand those. It's almost like a spider, but it's not, and they look really weird. So I think those are the ones, if I just see one, I'm like, oh, what is that? I can't place it. I'm not quite sure what it is or where it fits in. But yeah, otherwise, we are going to sit here and enjoy this waterhole. Wow, it is a beautiful morning. And that little blacksmith lapwing is enjoying some of the sunshine that is just coming out now and warming us all up. I think both Gerrit and myself are very grateful for the sunshine that's starting to come now. Maybe a little bit later on in the day as it's going to heat up, which it's meant to do. It's meant to get quite warm about this afternoon, so I think it'll be a different story at the waterholes as it gets a bit warmer today. Maybe some elephants coming down to drink, possibly even buffalo. I haven't seen buffalo in a long time. Maybe that's something we can look for a little bit later on as it gets warmer. And it's incredible how much water is actually in this waterhole. Jackie's asking as to why predators wait around waterholes for prey. And that's a good question, Jackie, but to answer it, it comes down to what animals need, and especially in the wintertime, where there's limited water sources. Things like antelope, zebra, wildebeest, all of those animals that are, reliant on water, have limited options as to where they can go to find water. And so for a predator like a lion, for example, they know that those animals have to come down to the water to drink at some stage because there's no other place to go. And so that's why sometimes you may find lions, even maybe a leopard hiding in a thicket nearby to water, so that it's almost a guarantee in their eyes that something will come down to the water that they can then hunt. Oh, look at that blacksmith lapwing now with its reflection. That is just lovely. A complete mirror image. Diana, that is a good question. The young Birmingham male, as far as I know, has been spending some time away from the pride, and he was seen with a male that I've never seen before, I'm not familiar with, called the Torchwood young male, and they may have formed a coalition, but I'm not 100% sure if that's something that's going to stick, but they were seen together. But it's interesting with that young Birmingham male and what his future holds. We're hoping that he does stay with another young male and they do form a coalition and they can grow and become strong, and he can, they can establish a territory one day, and that they can sort of move out of the area where there is some competition for them. But I think we are gonna maybe stay at this waterhole for a little while longer. Keep watching our little blacksmith lapwing, which is having a nice little bath at the moment. Look at that. And just enjoy.
Welcome back. I am still on a bumble looking for spotted cats. And at the moment, no more tracks, no such luck. Oh, some beautiful Ngala on a termite mound and down in the bush. Let's have a look. Just like the kudu enjoying the morning sun. This is definitely a younger one. Absolutely stunning colors in the light. So those little ones definitely listening to all the different bird calls. Not too worried about what's around it though. Checking, but definitely not alarmed. Always so lovely to spend a little bit of time with these herbivores early in the morning. Right, so I'm sitting with a little family of Ngala in the morning sun. This seems to be quite a young lamb. The mom has actually disappeared into the brush behind. I'm just really appreciating that little bit of morning light and a bit of warmth coming from the sun rising. So this little one doesn't look too concerned. She's quite happily feeding away. And every now and then, there you can see she's moved her ears and she picks up her head. So there are a lot of birds calling this morning. So that's her cue that everything seems to be okay. Yes, Ngala are born with these stripes. And the males, as they get older, will then start changing color, but they'll still keep the stripes. They'll change to that dark streak you can see down the mane there, down the back. But they are born looking incredibly cute with little stripes and spots. The spots are kind of closer to the edge of the rump though, and down towards the stomach, so you can't see them so well right now. Absolutely beautiful. From the stripe down its back, it looks like it might be a young male starting to change color. And that'll only really happen towards much later on, 12 to 14 months old. I really do love the fluffy tail though. Marcy, no, Nyalas are actually smaller than kudus. Big male Ngala is about 110 kilograms, where a big male kudu would be about 250 odd kilograms, maybe 270 on a big side. So they're a little bit smaller. They are very closely related to kudus and bushbuck though. So the order would be bushbuck being the smallest, Ngala being in the middle, and then kudu being the biggest. A female Ngala is a lot smaller than a kudu, so there's a massive size difference between male and female Ngala. The male would average at about 110 kilograms, where the female would average at about 60, so almost half of a male's weight. And if you compare that with kudu, a female kudu would probably be around 170 kilograms, where a male would be maybe 250. So there's a much smaller size difference. And if you're comparing the 60 kilograms to the 170 kilograms, it's a massive difference between a female Ngala and a female kudu. So yeah, they're kind of the midway between bushbuck and kudu. Can you hear a woodpecker in the background? So watching a Ngala walk is probably one of my favorite things, because you can see how it kind of tiptoes from one spot to the next. They're very deliberate about where they put their hooves, and that's so that they don't make a noise when they're walking. So the back foot will go exactly where the front foot has stepped. So it can be a little bit confusing if you're trying to track a Ngala, because you can see as it's walking, it lifts the front foot and then places the back foot almost exactly where the front foot is. So if they're really careful about it, it can look like one set of tracks, so a two-footed animal instead of a four-footed animal. And it's all to make sure that not much noise is made. It's almost like they go into stealth mode to hide from predators. There you can see the mother or an adult female on the left. So you can see the size difference there just in terms of adult female and a youngster. Tamo, yes, antelope definitely will use their horns to fight off predators. Ngala are actually incredibly good with their horns. Their horns can get very big and they are very sharp. So an antelope would certainly try. They kind of flick their heads backwards and side to side if there's a predator that's actually on them. Most of the time horns are primarily for fighting, for dominance between males, but they definitely can be used as a defense mechanism as well. There have been many animals that have been killed by Ngala's horns. So they're actually feeding mostly around the termite mound and around the base of it. And that is very expected because a termite mound will have a lot better aeration in the soil. It'll have a lot more nutrients in the soil. So the plants that grow on a termite mound and around the base of a termite mound are a lot more nutritious, especially in the dry months. Even if the termite mound isn't active anymore, because of the years of tunneling and recycling of nutrients that happens in the soil will still stay a lot healthier and a lot more valuable, if you can put it that way, than normal soil off to the side. Oh, I can hear some magpie sharks in the background. Always loved that sound. Alright, so I think I'm going to leave these to feed and see what else I can find for you on a bumble.
Civilized to just found some black rhino tracks. A mother with a calf. The calf tracks are so small. They're somewhere here in this area, but it's too dense to walk this way. So we're gonna walk around where it's not so dense. Let's hope we get lucky.
And sometimes you often drag their feet forward and deposit the scent mark, which is what they use to patrol their territory.
We managed to get a glimpse of the black rhino, but for safety reasons, of course, we held back and we walked a different way, but it was such a fantastic experience. We didn't just focus on the big things, because it's not all about the big things. We focused on army ants and lots of dung. Civilized did an incredible job, but it's up to the judges now.
This is a battle of two great carnivores of the African wilderness. Whew. Whoa! You don't want to be under those jaws. Definitely, this round goes to the lion. Look at that. Fantastic.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
The bushhawk feed allows the camera person some creative license. This is my favorite style of shooting. You have to be mentally and physically prepared. You're shooting handheld in some very strange and contorted positions, always with a straight back, often in the squat position, low to the ground. The creativity comes down to the relationship and sync you have with your presenter. The more you understand each other, the more you'll be able to tell the story seamlessly.
Gert and I were just saying that on the other side of this waterhole, you can actually see a big wet patch. And if we have a look at it, there we go, I think Gert's going to zoom in. We're just saying there must have been an elephant at some stage that was drinking right over there. Well, we think so. It sort of looks like the right size of, you can imagine an elephant coming down, strolling over, getting a bit of that excited run that they get when they approach the water. Maybe using their trunk just to flick off the surface as they do to make sure that it's nice and clean. And then putting its trunk into the water, slurping up a few liters up into its trunk, and then tilting its head back and lifting its trunk and squirting that water back down into its mouth. And along the way, maybe even flicking some on its body just to cool down, and that's a bit of the mark that's left from that elephant that was there. Maybe having a drink, maybe cooling itself down from the heat of the day. Russell, no, we don't often see them moving from waterhole to waterhole. Well, personally, I have never seen one on the move from waterhole to waterhole, but they definitely do move, because one day you'll see a crocodile somewhere and the next day it's gone, or you'll see one in a waterhole that there hasn't been one before. So they definitely do move. We do see their tracks on the road as well. But no, we don't often see them actually moving between the waterholes. But they definitely do that. And it's often, I suppose maybe overnight or when they feel more comfortable to do so. But we don't often see them doing it. They often just appear the next day or the next morning, and you're like, oh, there's a crocodile here now. So they definitely do move, but it's not often that we actually see them doing it. There's still some of these swallows that were flying around earlier. Yes, that's red Roman sun spider is very creepy. I'm glad you agree. Not something that you want to wake up with next to you on the pillow. Oh, these swallows have come back, and looks like some of them are actually dipping their red breasts into the water and heading off. Two birds have just landed on the other side of the bank, also to come and drink. Let me just check with my binoculars what they are. Oh, it looks like two starlings. And you can see there's quite a bright yellow eye on the two of them, which makes them the Cape starling, or Cape glossy starling, whichever name you prefer. Very common birds here in Ngala, but so beautiful actually if you have a look with the sunshine and their iridescent feathers, just how pretty they actually are. Just having a little drink, putting their bills down. Well, it's one now, one left. Oh, and it's flying away. They're just gone to perch up in the tree there. You can see that sunlight on their feathers now. Just how pretty that is. Lawrence is asking as to whether all birds nest in trees. And no, Lawrence, they don't all nest in trees. It is common that birds do have nests in trees, but there are, for example, these blacksmith lapwings that we see, these little black and white birds that we had, the one that we had earlier with the reflection in the water, they actually nest on the ground. And they will make a small sort of indent into the soil, a little like not a shallow little ditch, I suppose you could call it, and they will lay their eggs there. You've also got the seabirds, which do similar things on the sand. Ostriches, something that maybe we could even look to see if we can find this morning here in the south, quite a rare bird for Ngala, and they definitely nest in the ground as well. So no, not all birds nest in trees. There's the blacksmith lapwing just doing a little bit of preening this morning. Was the one that was having a little bath when you left us earlier, and now it's deciding to clean its feathers. Well, there is not only blacksmith lapwings and red-breasted swallows around. Let's go find out a little bit more about another bird that's coming soon to WildEarth.
Welcome to some very big elephant bulls in stark contrast to the small penguin. So I've got one elephant bull on this edge of the riverbed, which is behind the elephant. And then on the other side, another big bull has actually just flattened a knobthorn tree. It sounded like gunshots going off, it was so loud. Don't know where he's planning on going. Maybe down into the river to join his friend. But I love how his tusk is catching the light at this point as he turns. So he is in, he's disturbed a woodpecker. He's in quite a tough spot at the moment. There's a very thick bush on the left-hand side of him. I'm just going to give him 2 minutes just to see if he moves a bit, so we can try and get a view of his face. But you can see why he would be appreciating this area. There's a lot of green leaves glinting in the light along the edges of the riverbank. There's a lot more fresh shoots coming up. Here we go. It's actually trying to stretch through the tree. Francis, elephant bulls do form bachelor herds. They don't need them for survival. I think it's more just for company. But this will happen more actually when they're younger bulls. So when they get kicked out of the herd between 12 to 15 years old, they would then form little bachelor groups, maybe follow around some older bulls like this one, just to get some experience and kind of learn how to do things as a male elephant. When they're big like this, it's more for company. Not much is going to mess with a big elephant, so for now it's, you know, just a sense of having a friend close by. That being said, they can separate quite quickly. They can move off into different areas and then they'll find each other again. So he is multitasking. An elephant's life is putting food in and having poop come out the other side constantly. They can produce a massive amount of dung every single day. And they're constantly feeding to keep it going. Ruth, that's an excellent question. So the males and females will have differently shaped heads because females don't normally tend to fight as much. So the female has more of like a squarish head on the front. You can see his head is very rounded and muscular. And this would be a combination of the males have bigger tusks, so they need more muscle to hold it. They're also going to have a heavier trunk. And so that forehead is really filled in around the temples and the front with a lot more muscle to hold the heavy head up. At the same time, though, the males would fight a lot more where the females don't really fight. So it's also extra cushioning around the brain and cushioning on the head because the impact is taken from the tusks and from the front of the face. And so you'd need quite a lot of support to back that up. That is incredible. That sound of him chewing is unreal. done with it, throw it to the side. So he actually took all the bark off of that little piece, but he doesn't really want to eat the hard center, so he just threw it out. Nice, picking up the bits that he dropped off the floor, any bark that didn't go into his mouth. And you can see there's a fork-tailed drongo that's flitting in and out of the frame as well, looking for insects. Alright, and he is going to go down, looks like into the riverbed. Oh, no, just stretching. Alright, let me see if I can get you a slightly better position so that we can see his trunk stretching up. I think you forgot we were here for a second. Hello, boy. Alright, so that head shake that he did was just kind of reminding me, I know you're here. And now he's kind of just taking in these. So at the moment when they're this still, it usually means he's taking in the sights, the smells, the sounds. It's actually very interesting. There's a difference between males and females with the way that they react to wanting to gather information about something. So with the males like that, they have that kind of freeze moment where he stopped what he was doing and he didn't make any effort to hide the fact that he was gathering information. He stopped. He kind of turned his trunk up a little bit and he stood dead still. The females, though, have this different way of doing it where they actually try and make you think that they are not gathering information. So they'll actively pick up a branch or some food, and instead of putting it into their mouths, they use the opportunity as they're turning their trunk up to just turn the tip of the trunk towards you and smell you, but they still look like they carry on feeding when they don't. They don't actually put the food into their mouths. And we're not sure what the link is there. We don't know why the females tend to be more secretive about gathering information, where males would just do it without really thinking about hiding it. Right, but I think I'm going to leave these two to enjoy their breakfast. The other one is right opposite on the other bank. I can't really see him. And I'll carry on down the riverbank.
Well, we have found a few female kudus. They just slowly making their way through the veld here. The sunlight just hitting them on their backs as they're starting their day off and beginning to feed on the bushes around them. That one on the right looks like maybe have sensed something. Just looking at us now. Maybe even look at the ears pointing forward, eyes fixed straight towards me, maybe even hearing me talk even at that distance. You can see how large those ears are and can easily pick up even the sound of me talking from quite a fair distance away. It's heading now further in that direction. Maybe just investigating a noise that it heard. There are some others towards the left, also now looking towards us here. And now gone back to feeding as well. And just have a look at that mouth. How it's gently picking off the leaves that it wants, using its tongue, its lips. Ear, do you notice how those ears sort of go backwards as it puts its head deeper into the bush? Just making sure that they don't get poked in the ear by an odd branch or a thorn where it's feeding. think these kudu are going to be doing this for the rest of the morning.
We're back with the drive. Unfortunately, we've had a little hiccup with Rusty, so we had to go back to camp, and that meant that our tracking of those two leopards was completely cut short. We're only just getting back out of camp now, so I'm heading kind of roughly back in that area, but I spoke to the guys quickly in the west and asked them if they had picked up any tracks, and they said they've got tracks for a male leopard running on Parallel, which is the road that runs along Triple M, and the male track, I found it again where it had gone, and it went south and west, so I'm pretty sure it's the same track that they were following on that side, which is in Arathusa, unfortunately, but I just want to make 100% sure before I let it go. We all know how I get. Sometimes it's a bit like a dog with a bone, is you can't let it go until you know for sure. If you look at Tortoise Pan the other day, the primary reason for that is that sometimes leopards can double back on themselves and do little loops and weird and wonderful things. So always find it's thoroughly worth it to follow the track as far as you can in order to make sure that you know they're out and that there's not still a possibility. So yeah, we'll go check there. Failing that, it's starting to warm up now. It was a fairly chilly start to the morning, not crazy, but it was cool. So I think with this warming up, it's hopefully going to bring the likes of the elephants and antelope and those kind of things out towards water. So while we haven't really checked many waterholes first thing this morning, what we'll do is we'll start to check them a little bit later in the morning. You'll find that when it's cool like this, yes, maybe lions or leopards might be drinking at a waterhole, and that's normally if they have a kill nearby, they might drink very early in the morning. But for the most part, most animals will come down when it's a little bit warmer, so they wait until the heat starts to come through and then they do so. I haven't seen these guys in ages. With little disco donkeys on our left in the form of zebras. Impalas in front, but the zebras to the left. I haven't seen them in a while. I've seen their tracks a lot the last couple of days and where they've been rolling around and doing their thing, but actually haven't seen any evidence of them. I suspect that they just have come off quarantine. They must have been on quarantine during the night because they're moving from that area and now heading slowly to the west. What you'll find in this section is that a lot of these animals that require water or need water, quarantine, obviously there's the dam that's close by so they can drink there, but if they don't drink there, there's only two other options that they've got. The one is Treehouse Dam to the southwest, which these zebra walked past the other day. I saw their tracks there, but the other water point from this spot right now, which is probably actually closer than Treehouse, is a dam just inside Arathusa called Red Dam, and the direction that they're traveling right now will take them straight to that dam. So I suspect that's where they're heading, and just north of Red Dam, just south of Red Dam is a nice big open clearing which is perfect for zebra. Nice short grass where they can stay fed relatively safe and also find what they're looking for in the form of food and water. Always nice to see them though. Jason, no, unfortunately not. We don't get huge herds of zebra coming through. This terrain and this environment is not conducive to having massive groups together. If you look at the areas where big herds occur, and when we're talking big herds, we're talking 200, 300, 400, 500 zebra, even up to 1,000, 2,000. Those are considered big herds, and the areas that takes place is mostly big open grassland areas, and we don't have that. If you look at the terrain that they're in, it's quite dense, it's quite thick, the grass is quite long, so not conducive to big herds. a lot of predators here, and they just don't do very well in this kind of terrain. It doesn't really work for them. If you go up to, obviously, East Africa, everybody knows the migration, and it's weird because everyone always thinks that there's millions of zebra, and they aren't. It's about a 5-to-1 ratio with wildebeest and zebra. In fact, it's even more than that. The largest migration of zebras, funny enough, is actually in Botswana, and it takes place in February. The congregation of them is in February, and that is in an area called pans. They move into that salt pan there, and they take advantage of the rains that fill those pans, and the nutrient-rich grass and water that they can get there. So they all kind of congregate in that area, and then they migrate from there back towards the Proteus River. Which is a pretty big spectacle. It's not quite the same drama of the wildebeest migration, because you don't have to get those crazy crossings and those kinds of things, but it's absolutely amazing when you go into these salt pans and there's just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of zebras spread across this flat landscape, and this beautiful kind of coloration that you get in those salt pans. It's one of my absolute favorite places to go. I love going into that reserve. It's some people don't like it, but for me, there's something about it. The color and the light that you get there is very intriguing, because there's a lot of reflective surfaces, and because of how flat the terrain is, you often get the light at very oblique angles, so sun right low on the horizon, which gives this whole area and these white soils this pink effect, which is super cool. Obviously that's when the grass hasn't grown, but once the grass has grown, then you get this lush green carpet with these beautiful red-orange skies. And if you're there in February, it also coincides with the rains of Botswana, and you can end up with these massive thunderstorms that roll in over the salt pan. It's spectacular. So yeah, that's a very long-winded, very divergent answer to, do we get big herds? Big herds, not birds. So yeah, unfortunately not. Where you do get big herds in the Kruger system is there's central part of Kruger, around a place called Satara. You can get fairly large herds there, which would be 200 or 300 animals together. And then if you follow the Lubambos down on the far eastern side of the reserve, and it goes down into the southeastern corner, so if you're going towards kind of a camp called Lower Sabi from Satara, there's a back road there that often has nice big groups of zebra as well that mill about in that area. I think that male's feeling particularly perky today. See, there's one that's running around in the background there. Anyway, you can see also their camouflage, how well it works in comparison to... Why are you chasing the impalas? Leave the impalas alone. Silly zebra. You would think that from a distance it would be very, very easy to see zebras because of how dramatic their coat looks. But when you see them like this, in amongst some semblance of trees and branches, you notice how very quickly those striped patterns actually form a fairly decent function. And remember, we also that cats are seeing this in a not grayscale, but a very muted tone, and it makes it much easier. Are you trying to mate? Oh, somebody's going to get kicked in the face shortly. Anyway, unfortunately, that's them disappearing into the thicket. Pauline, no. There's many reported cases of leopards killing zebra. Adult male zebras, yes, too big, but young zebras, they go after them regularly. Here in the Sabi Sands, I've seen 3 different male leopards with zebra kills. So yeah, zebra foals are on the menu for a leopard, but a big adult male zebra, no, it would be very, 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 very unlikely that a leopard would even try. A zebra is a strong animal, and it bites and it kicks, and it's not afraid to try and defend itself. And so if you're a leopard, it's a lot of risk for a reward that you probably won't be able to keep anyway. Hyenas will probably push them off that kill, so they don't really target those big males. You'll find that it's just young ones that they typically go after. It's a pretty weird thing when you come down a road and you see the zebra hanging in a tree. It's not something you expect. Same when you see young giraffe up a tree or aardvarks. It's all these like weird and wonderful things that leopards kill and take up trees. That's why they're so fascinating to me, is this diverse array of food items that they can go after is pretty spectacular. All right, Simple, I'm not going to make you suffer any longer and try and film stripy animals through 7 million trees and at over 300-400 meters away. It's not very fair on our cam-ops when we ask them to film things like that. Anyway, nice to see them though, albeit brief. Alright, so I'm going to go bumble down. Like I say, let's go make 100% sure that it is the same leopard track that those guys are following and that we had on this side. And we'll head in that direction and see if we come up with anything.
My name is Nomfundo Ndlovu and I'm the Senior Project Manager for the WISA Schools and Youth Unit. I'm a qualified horticulturalist. I'm particularly passionate about supporting schools towards working through their sustainability journey and towards food sovereignty throughout food gardening projects. A typical day in my work involves me overseeing our national projects and creating an enabling environment for schools to thrive and succeed in working towards self-reliance and sustainability, and really ensuring that no school gets left behind.
We're in the center of the reserve. It's a much more open area, so a completely different experience. It's also in the afternoon, so just a little bit hot, shall we say. We're following some lion tracks, and then we found the scat of a lion cub. So we didn't see the lions, but we decided to leave the area. It was getting a bit too dense and a bit too thick. So we've come all the way down to the water hole to have a little break, and then we're going to keep walking and see what else we can find. And TJ himself actually reminded us at the start of the walk that when you're on the vehicle, it's all about observing. But when you're on a walk, it's all about immersing yourself in nature, being part of the ecosystem. And that's exactly what happened today.
Looks like it's a very difficult climb because every time it tries to climb, the ground is breaking, so it slides down. But it's the only one. Look at that. That is the call of desperation with a cub. It's like, what are you doing, mommy? Oops! Oof!
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
Welcome back to my bumble. So I'm still on the search for some leopard tracks. So far it seems like I've had no luck, but that's all right. Still got a whole day ahead of us. And I'm actually heading to a water hole just to go and see if there's anything else. Like Tristan said, you know, it gets a bit hotter, animals start coming down to watering holes, so it's worth checking, especially along all of these drainage lines towards the water holes. Jenny, I actually studied reptiles as part of my degrees at university, and I love them. I think they're very fascinating. I would definitely say that they took some getting used to, but yeah, the ice was definitely broken after studying them and having to work with them. Yeah, I'm quite fascinated by them, really. My brother and I both really love snakes now, so definitely an interesting one. That being said, I don't think I'd be the kind of person that would run and just grab one off a branch or in the bush. But a healthy respect for them, just not scared of them. Bumpy, bumpy, bumpy. All right. I have just arrived at Treehouse Dam. Let's have a look around, see what we can find. Absolutely stunning morning to be sitting at a watering hole. Alright, so this stalk has actually kind of done a little bit of a roundabout. Took off as we were arriving and then did a roundabout of the dam and has just landed again. Almost looks like it's more interested in looking in the grass line than actually in the water. So I don't know if you have any guesses for what that stalk is. I'd love to hear it if you do. I'll give it a minute and then I'll give you the answer. It's one of the most common stalks that you would find around here. Very distinct with a bit of red on the beak and the white neck. Possibly hunting for insects in the grass, actually. Kelly, right on the money. It's a woolly-necked stalk. Good guess. Good answer. There it is. Oh, having a groom. So as it's heating up today, there's a lot more activity happening. Animals aren't really hiding out from the cold. It was so cold this morning. In fact, I had 4 layers on and gloves. And now it's warmed up nicely. So the first indicator of that is a lot of birds flying around, birds active at the dam. A lot of bird calls. And then the next thing would be, as we're heating up now, you might start finding things like impalas coming down to drink, things like that. So what that does mean in terms of predators is that they might actually now be becoming less active. If I can wrap my head around my words, that would be helpful. So they might actually become less active now as it gets hotter. But it's definitely still worth looking for them. They might still come down to drink in the heat. Caroline, if you're asking if a woolly-necked stork can swim, they don't really have to go deep enough into the water that they would need to swim. I'm sure if they had a crash landing or something and ended up in the water, they might be able to flap themselves to the side. They don't have webbed feet or anything like that though, so they wouldn't really be able to rely too much on using their legs for swimming. They would float on top of the water because their feathers hold air. But they would probably have to use a combination of wing movements and leg movements to get to a point where it's shallow enough. Most of the time they're actually just wading along the side of the water, usually like up to knee deep level, sometimes a bit deeper, where they would be looking for things to eat. Interestingly enough, though, this is not one of the storks that you would see in the water every time you see it. It is predominantly going to feed on insects, which is why it's around the dam where there are a lot of insects, but predominantly walking through the grasses, trying to look for things like locusts and other large insects to feed on. They will definitely eat frogs and things as well, though. Definitely some small fish if they can find them. I've seen one eating a crab once. Very unusual sighting. So what I'm really hoping for is, as the day goes on, having some more animals come down. Maggie, yes, the male and female woolly-necked storks do look the same. The biggest difference that you would see in woolly-necked storks is between juveniles and adults. You'll see the juveniles kind of just don't look as distinct with their black and white separation. So there is no difference between males and females of the species. It's not like a lot of the other storks where there is a clear difference in coloration, or, you know, it's like a different color on the beak or the neck. Storks have actually been always one of my favorite birds. I think it came from a fascination with saddle-billed storks when I was younger, because they look so different and they're so big. So the stork is definitely taking the opportunity, now that it's warmed up a bit, to make sure that its feathers are nicely clean and aligned. So if it does need to fly, it can do it effortlessly, with the feathers at least. A very peaceful morning to be sitting at a watering hole. You'd probably find during the day today a lot of other animals are going to come down. If there are any buffaloes around, it's going to be a really hot day. So they'll come down to one of the water holes. Elephants will definitely be coming through. If there are any predators on the move, they would definitely not pass up the opportunity to drink if they were coming past, but you'll most likely find they had a drink during the night or early morning. When they were moving, they might just sleep the rest of today. So I know that Amy's been hoping to find some wild dogs this morning, and that kind of makes me think one of the reasons why I really love wild dogs is because they tend to swim. They love the water. When it's hot, they'll just dive straight in and lie down. And they're one of the predators that you would see at a watering hole during the day. If they're on the move, they're going to stop at a watering hole and they're going to have a little dip. And it's always very entertaining to watch. Don, I have not ever seen an ostrich in the water, to be honest. Most of the time when I've seen ostriches, they've been in kind of the open plains, like Tristan was talking about earlier with the high populations of zebras and things. That's where I've mostly seen ostriches, is in big open areas where you would normally find a lot of plains game. So I've never seen one in the water. I would absolutely love to see one even near the water and see what the interaction is. Would be very fascinating, I'm sure. See, everybody's coming down to drink now that it's getting hotter. And they are not slowing down with that drinking. So that's very normal for a bird to drink very quickly next to the water hole, so that there's a less chance of getting predated. definitely a stunning morning to be watching everyone come down to the dam. It's very wonderful to be able to sit at this dam and listen to all the different birds calling. Birds coming in and out to drink, flying over every now and then. Let's have a listen. I can hear quite a few different species at the moment. It's definitely one of my favorite things to do. Sit at a waterhole and see the activity, but also hear the birds. It's a great chance to just listen out. You never know what you're going to find.
So we have made our way a little bit further north from that waterhole into some open clearings. And look at that, we found some giraffe and some zebra. I'm very happy. I was hoping to see a zebra up in this area, and there we have one. And also some beautiful giraffe that have just begun feeding on these trees here that are growing in these clearings. What a beautiful scene. Some giraffe, some zebra. They're actually all over in the area, dotted around. Some giraffes and zebras. Oh, this one's just decided to have a look at us. Interested in my voice, I'm sure, wondering what it is. But not too worried. He's put his head back down and continued to feed. You can see the one coming now from the left-hand side. Also going to start feeding on that tree over there. Looks like possibly a young knobthorn. And that zebra has just been standing there looking at me since I arrived. You can see its ears are pointed forward, its eyes are looking straight ahead, a little shake of the head, maybe a oxpecker that's on it. We were looking at the giraffes, and there's actually quite a few of them that have oxpeckers on, so maybe on that zebra as well. Yeah, it looks like there is one. Let me just check with the binoculars. Yeah, on the left-hand ear, Looks like there's a bird sitting there, which will be an oxpecker. Oh, and that was getting maybe a little bit ticklish. Shake of the head, got that bird to fly away. It also looks, I don't know if it's just me, but that zebra's tummy is very large on both the left and the right hand side. Possibly pregnant, but from this distance it's a little bit tricky to tell. Nancy, that's an interesting question. Will other prey species use giraffes as a lookout? And I think what you mean by that is, will other species like zebra, for example, that are a little bit shorter, use giraffes to sort of be able to rely on them to be able to see further and then be able to spot any predators and warn them off? Warn them about them. It's interesting. I suppose in a way the species like zebra, giraffe, wildebeest, impala do sort of stick together to rely on one another. But giraffe don't have a vocalization like, for example, zebra or impala, that alarm call. We like to say that giraffes actually have an alarm stare. They just sort of stand and look in one direction, unblinking. So they will just stand and stare, ears in that direction. And when a whole group of them are doing it and are not even paying attention to anything else around them, then you then think, oh, maybe they've spotted something in the grass that we can't see. Now, as to whether the other species that are around them can pick up on that, I'm not sure. You would think that they would be able to see one another's behavior and use that as an indication as to whether there is a predator around. And the giraffe's flicking its tail. Look at that, from side to side. So maybe trying to just get rid of any flies that are bothering it. You can see, just like that kudu, how it uses its lips to pull off those leaves. Marcus, you want to know if giraffes give birth all year round. And I believe so. I don't think they actually have a particular breeding season, unlike impala that give birth at a particular time. We know that their mating season is around April, May, into the early weeks of June. And then they give birth now around late October, November, even into early December time. And for giraffes, that's something that can happen at any time in the year, just like zebra, although we do tend to see more babies around the summertime because of the more availability of food for the youngsters, greener grass, greener leaves that they are able to eat. These giraffes seem to be moving off a little bit further to the right. Oh, that one's just stopped to have a look at us. You can see the outline of those oxpeckers on its neck as well, just trying to find some ticks or parasites to eat. And I think as they are walking off, I want to go see if we can get a better view of some other zebras which are just up ahead. There's also some impala around as well. Let's go see if we can do that.
Apologies, we seem to be having a few technical issues this morning, some gremlins getting hold of us. So I am busy driving, looking for some tracks. I've actually just found male lion tracks going down the road, back kind of southwest. And it very well could be Dark Mane changing direction, which would be very interesting to see where he ends up. What I was really hoping as the day went on was that while it got hotter, that the wind wouldn't pick up so much, but there's definitely quite a wind coming through again. It's quite unusual for us to have consistent wind, so very interesting that we've got some at the moment.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, then we are excited to announce that there is another unique prize for you to win. Sign up to be an explorer before the 16th of October 2021, and you and a friend could be heading off to an eco-training ranger experience. This 2-night opportunity offers a living and learning adventure where you will combine seeing incredible nature with gaining knowledge on how animals live in the wild. You will approach dangerous game on foot, learn how to track, do some 4x4 driving, and have an exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team behind the scenes on the live show. After each action-packed day, you will relax around the campfire and listen to the nighttime choir of animal sounds before you drift off to sleep. WildEarth explorers, it's in your nature.
We had a very exciting start to our morning this morning. Today, it's our guided sunrise safari with Mike, and we started by looking at the moon through a telescope, which was incredible. It's been a very different drive from all the other ones, very interactive.
Your pigeal gland is something the hoopoes have in common.
Hi. This morning's drive with Mike was thoroughly enjoyable. He really engaged us, but we also did some birding, and I managed to add a few new birds onto my list. Overall, every single experience with all the competitors has been really incredible, but it's up to the judges now.
We've decided to come check Treehouse Dam quickly. I mean, it's been a ritual every drive, and while we haven't found much here, every time we've stopped in afterwards, we've managed to scrounge something out. So we'll just keep it up and see how it goes for us. It's very, very quiet at the dam. I was hoping the hippo would be here. He was here yesterday, but alas, nothing today. Just the odd bird that's coming down, which is pretty typical for this dam. So a lot of doves that come and drink here. There's the odd red-breasted swallow that comes in this direction. You get the lapwings. So all the normal kind of things that one would expect around a waterhole of this size and magnitude at this time of the year. As soon as things start to kind of green up again, then water isn't as desperate for everything. Then these dams start to take on a little bit of a quieter nature. But the nice thing about summer and when the rains come is that all these water points actually become a hive of activity, mostly from a bird and insect point of view and frog point of view. So, treehouse has never been the best for frogs because there's not a lot of vegetation. If you look around the dam, you can see the dam is quite bare of anything growing in it. But what you do get a lot of here is a lot of dragonflies and a lot of nice birds, particularly the kingfishers. So often find at this dam you can find pied kingfisher, woodland kingfisher coming to Bath. I've seen pygmy and malachite here before. So a nice little dam to come and bird at. At the moment, the Cape turtle doves are having a little drink, talking about birds. So yeah, I always like stopping at Treehouse Dam. I know it sometimes can be very disappointing. You don't see much, but other times this dam can be absolutely heaving with animals. We had that big herd of buffalo the other day. We've had lions here recently. We know leopards stop here quite regularly. It's just catching them when they do. I think I suppose the feeling of why it's kind of disappointing these days is that, when I first started at WildEarth and many moons ago, this dam was kind of our leopard dam. If we wanted to find leopard, we would really come to this dam mostly, and that's because Karula in the beginning and Hosanna and Shangila used to love staying here. We used to find Hosanna and Shangila here often, and then she would come and fetch them from this dam or at twin dams. And then when she disappeared, Hosanna and Tingana has kind of continued the trend at this dam, and then slowly Shadow started to move in, and we started to see Shadow here quite regularly with Not Barbara, and then even Tundi started to make appearances at this dam too, Tamba. So there was a lot of leopard activity around this, and then when that all kind of dissolved out and it changed, then we started to see far less in that regard. Since then it's been a little unstable, and every now and then we get Moya or Sibui or Shadulu or Tlalamba, but we don't really have a big male leopard around at the moment that is relaxed, and so we end up with a situation where we don't see him here. No, so not at this particular dam, but yes, I have seen crocodile and leopard interactions at Chitwa Dam, twin dams. Brent probably had the best crocodile leopard interaction on WildEarth's kind of drives, which was at twin dams. He had Karula, Hosanna and Shangile like on the edge of the dam, and a croc swimming around and Karula hissing at it, and it was almost like a lesson to the little ones as to be careful of water. A nice little group of Ngala coming down. It's not something we actually see at this dam very regularly at all. So it's not great Ngala terrain. We're in an area where there's not a huge amount of thickets. The Ngala typically like to be around camp or along the Mulawati and drink at twin dams and Gari Dam and Gallagher Pan. They very seldom see them here at Treehouse. But yeah, Brent had a great sighting. So Brent was a guide that was with WildEarth many years ago. And he had a very cool sighting of those leopards there. But yeah, I've had, like I say, had a few. I've seen it on Little Gowrie. I've seen it on the west in a dam called Big Dam. Seen it at Lion Sands. So yeah, it's quite common to see. In fact, Lion Sands probably had some of the most amazing crocodile interactions with predators there because of the Sabi River, which has got some big crocs in it. You'd often get particularly lions hunting in that river, and they'd bring down buffalo and the giraffe and those kinds of things in the riverbed. And some of the times they would kill these buffalo very close to the main channel. And then what you'd find is these massive crocs coming out, and these lions and crocodiles that would fight over these buffalo carcasses. It was pretty spectacular to see. We also once saw a crocodile trying to kill a wild dog. The dog managed to just escape as the crocodile came in and tried to close its mouth. I think because the dog was so wet and the kind of speed at which both were going, it almost like pushed the dog out of its mouth, weirdly, and the dog kind of just squirted onto the bank and managed to get its paws in and get out before the croc could get it again. So that was pretty crazy. And then one of the other guides at Lion Sands saw probably one of the most horrific sightings one could witness. A lioness had 3 cubs from the Southern Pride, and she was coming down to the river, and she wanted to cross the river, and she used to cross, the lions used to cross quite regularly, but normally what they would do is they would go to places where the river was very, very shallow, and they'd cross there, and for some reason this lioness, and she had very small cubs at the time, she just decided she wanted to cross in a certain spot that was a little deeper. It was about chest deep for her, and so she went across with the one cub, and she put the cub on. And halfway across, this crocodile came out of nowhere and caught her by the head, and she's carrying the cub in her mouth, and again she managed to struggle and she freed her head, but as she freed her head, the cub kind of came out, well, sort of came up in the air, and this crocodile's grip just latched straight onto the cub and pulled it out of her mouth, and then just went under and disappeared. So a pretty horrific thing to watch, a little cub being pulled out of its mother's mouth, and the croc disappearing. And then the mom panicked and ran across the river to where she had put the first cub, and then ran away, and she left the third cub just sitting on the edge of the water there crying for its mother. And that little cub was there for about 2 days, and then she came back and she found another way across the river, and she came back and got it and took it back over across the rocks and through a very shallow part. So predator croc interactions are never nice to watch. It goes the other way too. I mean, there's been lots of times where leopards have killed crocodiles, or lions have managed to grab crocs, especially little baby ones. So it's not only the crocodiles that inflict damage, but it's a tough thing to watch, because crocs are so powerful and so aggressive in their taking of an animal that it's brutal and it's violent. I mean, a lot of you will have firsthand seen the footage from Phinda and how that cheetah was taken by that crocodile. I mean, that poor thing, it was millimeters away from getting away, but once it was gotten with the power that crocodile possessed to just pull it into water and basically just swim straight downwards with the flailing cheetah, was testament to just how abusive and how strong those crocodiles can be when they grab onto something. Those are kind of sightings that you don't really want to see. They're hard things to witness. Any animal being killed is never nice. It gets a lot of people out here always like, want to see the kill, want to see an animal being killed. And, when you actually think about it, it's a pretty crazy ideology to think that we need to see something dying, in order to get a thrill out of it. I think the thing about it is that it's a fascinating thing to watch. So any predator hunting, there's strategy, it's a chess game, and we know from this show that 90% of the time the predators don't get it right. But when they do, it's a pretty hard thing to watch. When you're seeing an animal flailing for its life and trying to take its last breaths, and so I don't know, it doesn't always sit nicely, and that doesn't matter if it's a little baby Ngala like this one, or a lion cub, or a fully grown buffalo bull. Any animal struggling for its life and in distress is a hard thing to watch. Peaceful though, watching these Ngala come down. You can see the effects though of the buffalo and the elephants in this area of late. You see how they've worn all the grass around the dam completely, and they descend upon it when they come to drink. Also, you can see how much Treehouse Dam has dropped since the summer. So where that Ngala is drinking now would have been pretty much underwater, which is crazy. Caroline, you say such a lovely moment with the Ngalas. Indeed, very nice. Like I say, peaceful. I always like when the antelope come down and they line up together and have a drink. And you can see they don't drink long. But what you'll also notice is the direction of movement now. They're going straight towards the drainage line that leads away from, or leads into Treehouse Dam. And they know that that's the best place for them to camouflage and to hide out. And especially with such a young little baby like that, they need to be very careful, because that's prime target for leopards, whether it be male or female. That's the kind of thing that they like looking for. We see our leopards eating a lot of baby Ngala. So going into thickets and areas where they do better is probably a good call. That little baby can camouflage quite nicely in there. Alright, I think what we're going to do is we're going to carry on now. It's nice just to sit here for a little bit. We'll go see what else we can find. It's lots to still explore. And talking about explore, those of you that are part of the Explorers Club, or those of you that haven't been part of the Explorers Club, if you would like to join the Explorers, it allows you that opportunity to go and experience some very cool things, and one of those is going to the eco training camp at Pridelands.
If you are a WildEarth explorer, then we are excited to announce that there is another unique prize for you to win. Sign up to be an explorer before the 16th of October 2021, and you and a friend could be heading off to an eco training ranger experience. This 2-night opportunity offers a living and learning adventure where you will combine seeing incredible nature with gaining knowledge on how animals live in the wild. You will approach dangerous game on foot, learn how to track, do some 4x4 driving, and have an exclusive opportunity to join the WildEarth team behind the scenes on the live show. After each action-packed day, you will relax around the campfire and listen to the nighttime choir of animal sounds before you drift off to sleep. WildEarth Explorers, it's in your nature.
Absolutely incredible experience to be one there. Having a walking encounter with dangerous animals on foot, learning so much about tracking and so many different things in the bush. For our explorers, please remember though, you do need to register to be an explorer by the 16th of October if you want to stand a chance to win that prize at Eco Training Pridelands. So I'm still on a bumble looking for more tracks. Seems like the predators definitely have other plans for me today though. I was actually thinking about it. I have not seen a zebra in a while. In fact, I think I've only seen zebras once since I've been here. And I would love to find some more zebras too. And there's always fun to be had with giraffes too, so that would be amazing for my morning. Lovebird, yes, South Africa does have a national animal and flower. Our national flower is the Protea. It's actually part of the fynbos floral, or flora, that's the word I'm looking for. Thank you, my brain stopped working. So the Protea is a really, really beautiful flower that grows in the fynbos region. You'll actually see it on our national cricket team. They're called the Proteas. And it grows in a very specific region close to Cape Town. You can grow them in other places in South Africa though. And our national animal is the springbuck, so that's why our rugby team is called the Springbuck Rugby Team. There aren't really springbuck in this area, they don't occur here naturally. So instead, you would find them in places like the Kalahari and the Eastern Cape. Similar looking to an impala, but smaller with more striking differences in colour and a different shaped horn as well. In fact, one of my mom's favourite flowers is actually the Proteus. Justin, yes, we do still drive in the rain. We had a rainy safari, not yesterday, but the day before in the morning. It was still raining. So what we do... yeah, Morgan's commenting on the roof. So what we do is we have a roof that clips in that protects the camera equipment. It comes a little bit over me, but I still get a little bit wet. But yes, we do still go out in the rain. What it does mean is we have to take bumps incredibly slowly, because when the bumps start hitting, then the roof tends to bounce a little bit. It also limits our off-roading a little bit, because you can imagine with a roof you can't really maneuver in between the trees and such. But yes, we can still go out in the rain, luckily. I think if it was raining incredibly hard, like a flash flood, we probably wouldn't be able to, because we'd still get really wet. But also it would mean that the roads would be in very bad condition, and you don't want to destroy the roads when it's a flash flood. You definitely wouldn't be able to off-road with the rain like that. There's a very icy wind that is picked up out of nowhere. Molly, the animal with the longest gestation period outside of elephants, which is the 22 months, just short of 2 years, would be a white rhino, actually, which is a year and a half, 18 months. That's the next closest, and then a black rhino after that with about 15 months, a year and 3 months. The larger animals will have to have a much longer gestation period, because the little babies have to come out pretty much ready to function, ready to run, ready to eat. Whereas with the things like the predators, they come out very similar to human babies, completely dependent on their moms, eyes closed, ears closed, and not really able to move on their own. And in fact, the gestation most similar to ours would probably be a kudu at about 9 months. Adam, probably about the scariest animal encounter that I've had in camp since I've been here was just a monkey trying to steal my backpack. No, there haven't been any animals in camp recently. There have been some hyenas walking through, but they kind of mind their own business. I have had encounters with lions and things on foot in other camps, but not here. Although, I think I'm naturally quite nervous of monkeys, so maybe that does count as a scary encounter. When I was not as young as I'd like to think and say, but I was with my family in the Kruger Park, and a monkey came and stole a banana off of the skottel, which is like the South African breakfast pan that you would cook on. And it stole a banana, and my brothers managed to convince me that it would be a great time to chase the monkey. So I ran up to it and tried to stamp my foot at it and chase it off from stealing our food. And it promptly put the banana in its mouth, looked me up and down, and pulled my pants right down to my ankles in public. So maybe monkeys are something I might be a little nervous of. How How old was I? I was at least like 10 or 12. I was not as young as I'd like to think. So since then I've had a very healthy respect for vervet monkeys. He didn't even move afterwards. He just sat there eating his banana, looking at me with my pants at my ankles. And my initial reaction was just burst into tears. I'd actually love to hear if anyone has had a similar experience with a monkey, or if it's just me that seems to be targeted. Maybe monkeys can sense that I'm clumsy. I trip on flat surfaces, so I'm a pretty easy target in that sense for something as smart as a monkey. Yes, they do take full advantage in the Kruger. Oh, goodness. Yes, I've had my fair share of incidents, I think. I'll have to think of a few more for you, but while I do, I'm going to carry on with my bumble. I think myself and Morgan will have to compare embarrassing stories. I think I might win though. Oh goodness, let's carry on with our bumble. The wind is picking up substantially, so it is affecting the temperature currently, but also the birds. There aren't as many birds that are just sitting and singing right now. Keen to see what we found in the fire break today. I seem to have had a lucky stroke of fate the last few days on the fire breaks. Lots of squirrels around apparently. So I'm actually driving along the cut line along the fire break, hoping to find something interesting. I've had some very good luck on the fire breaks recently, and I felt lucky about coming up here. I don't know why. long it's going to take for the marula trees to start sprouting again. Should be sometime very, very soon. And then we'll have some yummy fruits in December. And then we'll see elephants absolutely loving life. Alright, so there are quite a few dips in this road, so I hope the signal stays with me. If it doesn't, I'll be back. I'll be here. Waiting for you. See, I'm glad I'm not the only one that's had experiences like that with monkeys. I'm telling you. They can tell. They can tell that we're vulnerable. That's hilarious. I've had way too many experiences with monkeys stealing my food, and I'm very protective of my food. That's a good question, White Man. I would say I'm actually quite excited to meet Thandi. Meeting Marib's mom would be incredible. I've heard a lot about her. I know she's been moving around, and I would love to meet her in person. That being said, you know, of the 30 odd that Tristan named yesterday, I've still got 25 to go. So there's a lot of leopards for me still to find here. But I've still got time, so I'm happy. It was actually quite wonderful when I met Maribs with Ali. He reminded me a lot of Makoti male at Ngala. Just his mannerisms and the way he kind of moves. So it was a little flashback straight into my heart right there. Running across the road. Brilliant. All right, so I'm going to keep going on my Bumble. I'm going to send you over to Amy. She's found an elephant.
Well, we have made our way up towards the river and found this elephant bull having a drink at a small pan. Just have a look at his trunk. Sort of twisted in a bit of a strange position there. But he's been here for about the last 10 minutes that we've been here, if not longer before that. Just taking his time, enjoying a nice cool drink this morning as the sun's starting to heat up quite a bit. Just have a look at his feet, just the little water line of where he's been standing. You can see the difference in the color. He's just stopped behind that tree. Just wondering if he's going to move again, otherwise we will reverse and get a better view. Let me just reverse slightly. Looks as though he's had his drink for the morning. Oh, look at his trunk, giving himself a little bit of a ear scratch. You can also notice his tusks, how the one on his left is far shorter, actually broken off, it looks like, compared to his right. Most likely he actually favors using that left tusk of his to use to break off bark, etc. But he looks like he's gonna carry on moving through, so let's reverse and see if we can carry on following him for a little bit. Eve, you want to know if elephants can be ambidextrous? I think you're referring that to their tusks, whether they can use both of them, and I think definitely. I think that they can sometimes favor one over the other, either be left tusked or right tusked, I suppose, but they certainly some that I'm sure can use both and don't have a preference. But generally, when you see elephants, there is a tendency, even if it's slightly, that the one tusk will be either shorter or more wore down than the other one. But it looks like this elephant has finished with his drink for the morning and is headed off to start feeding into the bush around here. And what we're going to do is carry on as well and see what else we can find. We did actually have earlier I said I was going to go see if we could find a better view of those zebra, which we did, but unfortunately there was no signal, so we couldn't show them to you. So we had to move on from those clearings that we were at. And now I think we're going to head down towards the river. See what else we can find. Maybe some more elephants. Perhaps one or two nice birds as well. They're always special to find around here. As the morning starts heating up. Nathan's asking about whether elephant tusks have any feeling or if it hurts them when they chip or break. And Nathan, I imagine they do, because a tusk is simply just an enlarged tooth that's connected into the jaw. And you can imagine your own tooth, how sore that is if something happens to it. And so I imagine just like that, the elephant tusks are also sensitive and can feel pain if it was to break off, or at a certain height. I'm sure at the end, sort of, if there's a small chip or something like that, it wouldn't really bother the elephant. But as it gets higher up and thickens and deeper sort of into where those tusks join to the skull of the elephant, it can be very painful.
The scribe collected a dry grass, put it next to the water hole as the hippo walks down during the warm of the day to drink the water. When the hippo arrives, he saw quite a very nice grass, an area not to resist to rest. And when the hippo went down to drink the water, and when finished the water, he just lied down on the grass. And then, that was the opportunity of the scribe. You know what? Today is my day to pay the revenge.
I've seen something I've never seen here before. Look at these cubs. One is crossing the river. It's being washed away, unfortunately, but I'm sure the mother is going to save her. Look at that. How beautiful. Look at that. One crossing, two to go.
Well, it's an antelope kind of morning by the sounds of things. We've all been struggling a little bit to find anything bigger than this. Although I suppose there's been some ellies and giraffe and zebra, but not very much else. Quiet on the cat front. Yesterday was a good day with the cat side of things. We had quite a few leopards and lions and things that made appearances. But today it's just been a little on the quiet side. Unfortunately, with Rusty, we've had to come back towards camp again. It just doesn't want to work. I don't know what's wrong with it today. It's having a Sunday little brat session, and so we kind of have to just be close to camp and be still. So we decided we'd stop at the dam, and the dam's got a few things milling about. We've got the impalas and young Ngala bull. You can hear some oxpeckers calling on the impalas, which is par for the course. They generally aren't far from these little herds that congregate around the dam. But it's weird, the weather's changed. We started out with a beautiful sunny kind of warm morning once the sun was up, and now all of a sudden there's this cloud cover that's come in, this wind is kicked up, and the wind is still very, very, very cold, and the temperature's actually dropping rather than increasing, which makes me quite sad. I was hoping we were going to get a change in weather and we we're going to get back towards warmth. They said today was supposed to be quite warm. The forecast was for it to kind of hit upper 20s, and what's that in Fahrenheit? I would have to check. I think it's probably upper 20s would be probably around 70, upper 70s, somewhere there. So it was supposed to be very pleasant, but I don't know, the wind is what's making it cold. When the wind doesn't blow, it's actually perfectly fine, but the wind chill is quite high. So I'm hoping that will drop at some point. They're saying that it's supposed to be sunny most of the day. It certainly doesn't look like it. There's this cloud cover that's blown in during the course of the morning. So the antelope won't worry too much. It's been nice for them to be able to eat in places where it normally is a little hot during the day. They've had the last couple of days where they could feed wherever they want, really, and not have to worry about blazing hot sunshine. So it can happen where different species of antelope have a go at each other. I've seen oryx in the sort of drier parts fight with wildebeest a few times. Here I've never really seen too many big blowouts between the antelope species, but it can happen, and it's normally when it's drought times, when food and water is very, very kind of precious. Then you find that these antelope will go at each other, particularly the bigger ones out-muscling the younger ones. So you could find like a Ngala and an impala have a little fight. If there's a bush or a piece of water, then sometimes they'll clash, but it's not common to see that kind of behavior, and there's something that causes it. It's not a thing that they just, well, I'm going to fight with you today. It's normally when they're under stress and pressure from conditions that they start to behave that way. Where are my binos? I want to see there's a bird of prey that's coming far, 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 far away. It's not worth putting on camera just yet because I don't think we'd get much of it. But just want to try and figure out what it is and see if it's going to travel in our direction. That's a Wahlberg's. No idea, I'm not quite sure what you mean with asking about whether the weather affects the animals like it does domestic dogs. So, I mean, do you mean like that when it rains that the dogs want to be inside, or... yeah, I'm not really sure I get the gist. Thunder and lightning. No, not as much. We make domestic animals' lives very easy by providing them a place where they can go and shelter and hide and do their thing. Out here, thunder and lightning is part of their existence from day one. What you'll sometimes find is like if it's a cub or a little baby animal that's been born and it hasn't experienced that yet, the first couple times it's a little nervy and a little shy and twitchy about these big booming thunder kind of claps and the brightness of a lightning bolt, but they settle into it pretty quickly. They have to deal with it. There's no other way around it. They can't get away from it and go and hide too much. But what you will find is like with cats particularly, and even the wild dogs and hyenas, is when it starts to really hammer down with rain and lots of thunder and lightning, is that they try and get themselves into some sort of thicket where they are at least a little bit sheltered from the downpour. But yeah, it's really not the same as the domestic animals, which, like I say, live a very charmed life in comparison when it comes to thunder and lightning. But you won't see a leopard or a lion go scuttling under a log because there's a lightning bolt that comes down and then thunder afterwards. So it's not like a domestic cat that'll run under a bed or something like that. They just try and move to the nearest bush and then just sit in the bush and look thoroughly miserable until it all passes. The antelope and the likes, they just try and find clearings and again just have to sit and bear it. They unfortunately kind of turn their back to the angle of the rain and just sort of hunch over and close their eyes and try not get killed by a predator that could potentially be hunting. But it's not often that the predators will hunt in really heavy rain. They themselves are not into that kind of thing. If it's soft rain, different, but the driving heavy thunderstorms, most things are trying to settle, and when the predators do hunt, it's just prior to the rain arriving. So as the thunder and lightning's coming in, and it's generally accompanied by a lot of wind before the rain starts, that's when the predators know that they have their best shot at trying to catch something. When the wind is swirling and there's a lot of noise and light flashes. Once the rain starts, though, it becomes difficult for them too, so you don't see them hunting as much when the rain is actually falling. The thing about wildlife, though, is you can never say never. Animals behave and do things according to the conditions and change all the time. So probably asking if the predators have a bad smell. No. I mean, leopards and lions are pretty good at grooming themselves, making themselves as clean and as tidy as they possibly can be. The only time that you'll find predators smell bad, so even hyenas, because hyenas get a bad rep, everyone's like, oh, they're stinky. They're not at all, actually. Hyenas don't smell bad 99.9% of the time. The only time that animals stink is when they are eating off rotten carcasses, and then that rotten smell gets on them, and it can be a bit much. So like particularly in the summer months, if they feed on something like a hippo or a elephant or a buffalo, big buffalo, and then they can walk past you and they can just stink of rancid meat, which is not nice. But they groom that off pretty quickly, and then they are all right. And then the other time that they really smell is when they basically drop their hips and let go of their bowels. And that's when can be a special kind of smell that can come out of them. But the actual animals themselves, no. I mean, we've had lions and leopard and hyenas kind of coming right past the car within 20 centimeters of your leg, and you don't smell anything. There's no pungent smell that comes off of them, so that's pretty chilled. The one predator that does actually have a bit of a scent to it, or a smell to it, and some people like it, some people don't. I find it's neither here nor there. It is strong, but it doesn't really bother me, is wild dogs. They have a very, very pungent odor that you can pick up. So they're probably the only one that actually has a constant smell, but it's, like I say, some people don't like it, some people do. For me, it's not a great smell, but it's not offensive to the point where I don't like it, so it doesn't really bother me. Still just sitting, watching the impalas, taking it very easy. A couple males are with the females. You can tell it's that time of the year where all these girls are pregnant and boys are being very nice to one another. I think we'll just sit and listen, and maybe we'll pick up some sounds of something moving around. Amazing when you sit quietly how much you can hear. I can hear squirrels alarm calling, brown-headed parrots that are making a lot of noise. I think those are the nesting birds that are close to the dam cam. Egyptian geese, go-away bird calling. You can hear the hippo breathing in the dam here. Oxpeckers. Very cool sometimes just to allow your ears to do some work and to try and figure out what's actually going on around you when you actually stop and listen and try and see how many birds you can identify or how many animals you can hear. I think it's a cool thing to sometimes exercise other things other than our eyes. Alright, well, we'll just sit at the dam for the remainder of the morning because, well, we can't go anywhere else, and see what else comes down.
Welcome back. I'm still on my bumble, but I've had to slow it down a little bit. Wendy is starting to smell a little bit old. Maybe like she might want to burn up at some point. So I've slowed it down a little. Just taking a little bumble back towards Vuyatela Dam. And all of a sudden, blue sky is gone and we are covered with clouds again. So it's getting cold. Quite crazy. This weather has been giving me a bit of whiplash the last few days. I don't know what the animals will be doing. So Darkmane's tracks can look a little bit different with his injury. It actually depends on how he's walking. So sometimes he walks completely normally as though there was never an injury. Sometimes he limps quite badly, sometimes there's a bit of an in-between. So his tracks will be different based on how he's walking. When he is limping really, really badly, you'll see there's either only 3 tracks and every now and then a bit of a toe print, where he's kind of put a bit of weight on that foot. When he's walking completely normally, there's pretty much no difference to a normal lion track. So it honestly just depends how his paw's feeling on the day. You know, we were discussing it last night. He has days where he's worse, and I think that's completely normal. Anyone that's ever had a broken bone or a surgery or anything like that, you'll know that on cold days it feels a lot more sore. If you've been using it too much or sitting on it too much, not using it, it gets really sore again. So it just depends on the day. His tracks today, they are looking completely normal. Not at all different to another male. Oh, elephant. And a waterbuck. I don't know if we'll get the waterbuck for now, but we can kind of get a little bit of the elephant. And then I'll try and get the waterbuck for you. Beautiful big bull that seems to be hiding from us at the moment. And that's all right. He's probably actually going to stay down in this drainage line most of today, even though it's overcast and it's not that hot. You'll probably find he's going to stay down here where there's some good greenery and some cover from the wind in particular. Sorry, Wendy is moving on her own. I love it when elephants do that. As they're picking up the grass, they kind of just give it a shake off, roll it around a little bit in the trunk just to get rid of all the dirt. Particularly little grains of sand and things in the sandy riverbed. You want to make sure that you're not getting that down onto your teeth. Teeth are so valuable as an elephant, and you don't want to grind them down unnecessarily. Also, it's uncomfortable. There's nothing worse than having sand in your mouth. I don't know if you've ever gone to the beach and accidentally had a sip of your cool drink or something and there's sand in it. It's a very unpleasant feeling to have it grinding around in your mouth. Really interesting. They'll actually also use that to smack themselves if there's flies or anything bothering them. Janet, that's a good point. I never thought about that. If they've got such a long trunk and they do everything with it, and that's an extension of the nose, why aren't they sneezing all the time? So it is actually quite amazing that they're not sneezing 24/7. But you'll probably find, because the trunk is so long and because it's so versatile, anything that they do suck up with it, they'll very easily be able to expel. They've got very strong lungs, so they'll just be able to push it straight back out. Or when they suck up water, it'll clear it anyway. I don't think... Well, that's actually probably a large reason why we sneeze where elephants really don't. Because we don't suck water up with our noses to clear the nasal cavity. An elephant would definitely be able to do that regularly. Yeah, the waterbuck has disappeared into thin air. Let me see if I can reverse a little bit so we can try and get a bit of the elephant's face in, since he's also moving. And Wendy is moving on her own as well. Oh, he's got a tough view for us there. Oh, he's throwing grass over his head. So somehow we seem to have some magic happening, because the waterbuck has somehow managed to cross in front of the elephant and neither of us saw it do that. And we're wondering how on earth it got to that bank from this bank in front of the elephant without us noticing. This is actually a really big male waterbuck. You can see how big his horns are as he's walking.
Not going to be on camera.
No, Morgan's right. That waterbuck is definitely a bit shy of the camera today. Not interested. So it's actually quite lucky for this elephant that it has decided to, well, not decided, the weather has become overcast. So I'm sure the elephant is actually quite relieved with that. You can see he's not having to flap his ears, he's very still and he can stay in one position for quite long, which isn't normally the case when an elephant is standing out in the open. Because they'd get so hot so quickly, they would normally move from shade to shade, sticking in the cooler areas. So it seems like there is quite a bit of life in this drainage line in particular. And it's for a multitude of reasons. I've just noticed some kudus that are also feeding just along the bank here. And it looks like it's a whole family. They're actually crossing the road into the thickets behind us. And then coming down towards the riverbank. Love the way they walk. It's like royalty. Very regal. So that's still a very young calf. Definitely still going to be sticking next to mom. You'll notice that it's actually still a different color. So the cows are quite gray, dusty gray in color. This one is still so young that it's still got quite a lot of rusty red in it to blend in with that grass. It's actually very interesting with kudus. For the first kind of 2-3 months that a calf like this is alive, they actually hide them very, very well. So a lot of the time what will happen is while the herd is out feeding, the little one will be hiding in the grass. Mom will hide it somewhere and leave it there and then come back and find it later. And that's why that colouring is so important when they're young. And so now this one's just old enough. It's just getting old enough that it's starting to move around with the herd, and so it's starting to go grey from the nose downwards. Soon it'll look just like mom. Right, but I think I'm going to carry on. I'll leave all these animals to feed peacefully in the drainage line, and we'll see what else we can find.
It's day one of the annual South African Guide of the Year competition, and our first foot into this competition this morning is all about tracks and signs.
We're going to call you in one at a time. Just look at it, the information will be there.
Our 5 guides have been tasked by the judges at figuring out who is what is who, and where they go in the bush.
Either Franklin or guinea fowl, but because of the volume of other deposits in the area, we went with guinea fowl.
Detailing the surrounding that you need to look out for tracks. The details is very important.
You are cheeky. That was a brave decision. Amber Eyes is... Oh. That is so magic. That was absolutely wonderful. Amber Eyes just gave that cub an enormous hug.
Expect the unexpected here on WildEarth daily.
I love being a cam op for WildEarth. The animals coming right up close to you, especially like lions. Sometimes you get nervous, but you have to go with the flow. My favorite animal to film is the elephant because of how big it is. But when it's really up close to you, it's one animal that you would say, I really respect you.
Well, it's still at the dam. We're just spending some time with the resident hippo that calls Vuyatela Dam home. He's always around somewhere in this dam. Can sometimes be like this, where he's shy and he just drops underneath the water and doesn't want to be seen. And other times he's quite sort of visible and plays with sticks and yawns and does his thing. Maybe he's just feeling like it's a lazy Sunday and he's feeling shy today, so he's going to hide under the surface of the water. It's Murphy's Law. He's been up the whole time, and as soon as we want to put him on camera, then he's deciding, nope, I just want to go under. And what you'll find is if he's like this, then his nose will come up and you'll just see two little nostrils sticking out. He'll take a breath and go back under. He won't actually even bring his whole head up to show himself. So we'll leave him for now and show you the resident Egyptian geese. They're always here. It's must be quite hot property this at this time of the year for Egyptian geese. I would imagine there's lots of fighting that goes on here every day. In fact, I know there's lots of fighting that goes on here every day because we hear it. You'll probably find a lot of pairs of geese that are trying to look for better homes. And I must be honest, these guys are in the pound seats. While it is a big dam and it's open and it's, you know, it doesn't have all the cover in the world, they don't have to worry about crocodiles here. So when they have their little ones, the crocs are not a huge problem. And also because of this dam drying out recently and only in the last 2 years actually filling up, the catfish in here are big but not massive. So when they have their little chicks, they can actually bob around here without too much fear of those chicks being taken by crocodiles and fish. And I know that sounds ridiculous, but the catfish do eat their little babies all the time. I remember I've spoken about this sighting a few times on this show, but I remember watching the one day we were with the family and we were watching these little Egyptian geese swimming around, and they're like, oh, they're so cute. And I was saying, yeah, they're super cute, but you know, it's tough to survive out here. Things can go wrong, and you know, catfish and all this. And they were like, no, catfish surely can't. And as soon as they said this, but this catfish just comes up and blob, and two little chicks gone. So you know, it happens with these guys. They have those things to struggle with. But here it's not that many available threats. Even you know, nowadays they don't have Hosana terrorizing them every day. They also, you know, the Wahlberg's eagles very seldom will go after those. We don't have a fish eagle here that's resident that will chase them. So they have a pretty charmed life, a nice big waterhole and very little predation threat to them. But it's good that they do get predated on because their numbers are crazy. These guys have just exploded everywhere across Africa. That's 100%. My favorite bird of prey is a crowned eagle. A hippo might yawn. Are you going to yawn? I'm not sure if he will. But yeah, crowned eagles are my favorites. Unfortunately, we don't see them here often. Often is actually probably even a stretch. They're a rare sighting for here. If you're at the Sabi River, Sand River, Manyeleti River, along the riverbeds there, you can get them. So I have seen crowned eagle in the Manyeleti, and actually, funny enough, in the Mulawati. But that was in 2012 when we had a very, very wet, thick year. So they came down off the escarpments. But yeah, on the Sabi and Sand River, you get them every now and then. They're beautiful, beautiful eagles, and big and powerful and robust. And I like them because, I don't know, there's just something about them that oozes character. They almost remind me of kind of gangsters in a way. I don't know why. They've got this hardened look to them, and there's just attitude that comes from a crowned eagle. And like I say, I like their markings too. They're different, you know, long big talons, and maybe it's I like them because they hunt monkeys, and I'm not a monkey fan. Maybe that's why. I know earlier Tess was talking about monkeys, and you know, if she's ever had scary encounters with monkeys. It's something I think we've all had some sort of encounter with. Luckily, as a male, it's a weird thing, but monkeys generally, particularly vervets, are very, very shy of men more than they are of women. But every now and then you'll get cheeky monkeys. And actually, I had an incident recently at Vuyatela. I was hosting a safari there, and a baby monkey got in the kitchen, and I happened to just walk into the kitchen at the time, not knowing they were in there, and all these monkeys ran out, and the baby ran the wrong way, and it ran into the storeroom. So now the storeroom windows are all closed, I can't get them open, and the monkey is going crazy. It's screaming. It's this little baby monkey, and having an absolute cadenza inside this little storeroom. And because of that, outside of the kitchen, which I've now closed the doors, bar the one that I wanted to go out, these monkeys can hear the screaming, and they think obviously that I'm trying to kill this thing. So they are going crazy, and they're baring teeth, and they're slamming up against the windows where this little baby monkey can see the others. And there's just absolute pandemonium, and it's probably the only time where I've been a bit like, this is not ideal, and a bit nervous of a vervet monkey. Anyway, eventually, after a whole lot of chasing around and monkeys trying to attack me and bite me, we managed to chase, Rexon and I managed to chase this little monkey out of the storeroom, and then we opened all the doors and the mother came in and grabbed it, but there was teeth being bared at us, and the one male was trying to bite us. So it was just a whole story that went on. It was the only time, like I say, that I've been a bit nervous of monkeys, so pet crowned eagle would have worked really well in that situation to sort them all out very, very quickly. But yeah, alas, we didn't have that, and anyway, all was ended well. Monkey was fine, and I don't think it will go into the storeroom anytime soon after that incident. Nice that our hippo actually showed himself. Decided he's going to be somewhat visible this morning. But yeah, the crazy stories that we have from being out here, when you spend time out here, you end up doing all kinds of silly stuff and having to deal with all kinds of weird and wonderful things that you never thought you'd have in your life, and that's what makes it so rewarding and exciting to live out here. Anyway, it is that time of the day where we're going to head back to camp. Hopefully you guys have had a good morning safari with us. I know it's been a little quiet on the cat side, but there's been lots of other cool things to look at. The girls certainly held down the fort for most of the day, so well done to them. And like I say, hopefully you guys enjoyed the morning as well. But from all of us, it's been a pleasure. We look forward to seeing you again this afternoon on our sunset safari.